November 22nd, 1984. The Kansas City Chiefs are about to hold practice before their game against the New York Giants. And to say that this season has not gone well for the Chiefs would be putting it lightly. We're 12 weeks into the season, and as we only have one quarter of the year left, the Chiefs have an uphill climb to make it to the postseason. After starting the year 2-0 and looking sharp, the Chiefs find themselves sitting at 5-7, losing 7 of their last 10 games and losing their last 3 games, with their most recent game, a 17-7 loss at the hands of the Los Angeles Raiders, being a game where the Chiefs amassed just 20 rushing yards throughout the entire contest. We were 12 weeks into the season, and the Chiefs were dead last in the division with one of the worst point differentials in football and with a bottom 5 offense in the league, including an offense that had already been shut out on multiple occasions. Now, their final 4 games of the season, coming against the Giants, Broncos, Seahawks, and Chargers, were against 4 teams who were sitting at 500 at minimum, and 4 teams with a combined winning percentage of 71%, giving you probably the toughest strength of schedule imaginable down the stretch. You have to win out to make the playoffs. If you don't win out, you can't get in. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. So safe to say, your playoff hopes and chances of making it back for the first time since 1971 are hanging on by a thread. Your head coach, John Mackovic. It's time for practice as you get ready for the final quarter of the season. What do? Dog treats. The answer is dog treats. No, I am not making that up. Literal dog treats. We have a story today about a man who, as a way to motivate his team, literally gave his team dog treats. To the surprise of absolutely no one, this did not work. John Mackovic was a very strange coach. His 4 seasons with the Chiefs as the man in charge were marred in controversy and tactics that not many players responded well to. And this has to be up there with one of the weirdest ones employed by any coach ever. Because this is the story behind the man who decided to feed his team dog treats, and quite literally, treat them like dogs. Make sure you hit that like button down below, subscribe, hype up that video, and turn on that notification bell so you don't miss a single video that we post on the channel. Because we post every single day on here about the weird and the wacky history of the NFL, with stories like this one that you may not have heard of before. So if you like that sort of stuff and want to learn more, then this is definitely the place for you. Thanks in advance for liking and subscribing, and for hyping up the video, and for helping us grow this community. And with that in mind, let's talk about the time that John Mackovic used dog treats to help his team get out of a stretch that, I guess you could say, was pretty rough. But before I talk about the actual incident in question, and just how bizarre it was, we need some context to understand who this man right here was, as in the head coach of the Chiefs, John Mackovic. To be a head coach, you have to wear a lot of different hats. It's not just about the X's and O's and your football knowledge. One of the hats that you have to wear is the psychological aspect of it. You have to know exactly what buttons to press and how to get your guys in the right mindset. Every coach does this in some capacity, but Mackovic was obsessed with the psychological aspect of being a coach. Even when Mackovic was somewhat of a no-name, just starting out his head coaching career at Wake Forest, those close to him said that a big part of how he taught the game and managed the team was from a psychological aspect. He was big on that stuff. As one writer said in the literal first line of his piece about Mackovic in the late 70s, John Mackovic's job may officially list him as head football coach, but don't be fooled. John Mackovic is a professional believer, a full-time motivator, a philosopher who preaches and practices positive thinking. If you read that sentence and you know nothing else about him, you would confuse the man for Ted Lasso. And when you're into psychology, Like any psychologist, you know about the Pavlov experiment. Heck, you might not even be a psychologist and know what this is. I'm not going to go too much into the weeds of Pavlov, but the Russian scientist conducted perhaps the most well-known psychological research project. And if you put the Stanford prison experiment at number 1, then at a bare minimum, Pavlov's experiment is in the top 2. Pavlov tested with dogs where he would play a sound, like ringing a bell, and then he would give the dog food. Eventually, he'd do this so many times that the dogs were trained to know that every time the bell rang, it'd be time for food. And the dogs would naturally become hungry and salivate, thinking that they were getting food. Not by seeing the food, but rather just by hearing the bell and hearing that consistent sound in their environment. Pavlov was the one who proved that stimuli in our environment impact how we respond to certain situations. So with that in mind, this man right here, John Mackovic, decided that the best way to boost his team's spirits and morale and get his guys motivated to take on the Giants was to teach them about Pavlov. And the best way to do this was to give the team dog biscuits. Yeah, because that's what every human being wants, especially if they don't have a dog. They just want to have a full box of dog biscuits to go home with. Okay, this may seem bizarre, but clearly there was a goal here. This was the way that Mackovic operated. He was meticulous. He had a plan in mind. He had been thinking about doing this for a while and carefully curating this lesson that had nothing to do with football. He'd been planning this lesson during his time as the head coach at Wake Forest and during his years of training. As Mackovic said about what went into this, I just thought of it this more. Are you serious? Are you being freaking serious right now? You're telling me there was an NFL coach that went to bed one night, then woke up the next day and was like, scrap everything I had planned for the day. I'm gonna teach my players about Pavlov and classical conditioning. This was a real thing that happened? Imagine being a player thinking you're going into the facility to lift some weights and watch some film, and instead, you're handed a box of dog biscuits and given a college lecture about Pavlov's findings. Now, to be fair, Mackovic elaborated on this strategy later, saying, I was interested in talking to them about stimulus response, so I told the guys about the experiments of Pavlov and his dogs. I wanted to show them that we are all the same. We all respond to stimuli, whether it is positive stimuli or negative stimuli. I wanted to encourage them to respond to positive stimuli. And you know what? I can kind of see this working, even if the execution was a bit off. When you're 5-7 and you're in the middle of a pretty bad losing streak, it can be very easy to read the papers and listen to the pundits and think how much you stink. But it's important to not let the negative stimuli get to you and to find a way to tune it out, and instead think about the positive stimuli. Not exactly what Pavlov had in mind, but I can at least understand what the coach was going for here. I'm not one to rag on sports psychology. This is weird, but I'm not one to rag on this. Football is a mental game as much as it is a physical game. And even if the dog biscuits part might be a bit overboard, I'm not going to rag on a coach for trying to get his players to be in an appropriate mindset in order to get the most out of them and in order to allow them to reach their potential. That is, except for one small problem. Might be a bit of a nitpick on my end, I don't know, but there's one issue that you might be able to tell with all of this, even if you might agree with the message that Mackovic was trying to get across. And that was the fact that the man talking about responding to positive stimuli and positive reinforcement was, oh yeah, John freaking Mackovic! If you know, you know. And if you don't know what I mean by that, let's just say that it's like Mike Vrabel lecturing you on the importance of being faithful to your significant other. Legitimately, no joke, Urban Meyer with the Jaguars is a better messenger for positive stimuli than John Mackovic is. This is the same coach who was so disgusted by his team's performance that he stopped having the Chiefs cafeteria feed them lunches, stripping them of their food privileges. The only team to do that in the NFL, which you can learn more about by clicking the card in the upper right corner. Oddly enough, that's kind of the anti-Pavlov. We are not giving them food, but instead, you're taking it away from them. This is the same coach who was so universally hated by his players that there was a mutiny just about everywhere he went by the end of it, including the Chiefs after they made the playoffs in 1986. The man who's preaching positivity and positive stimuli and responding well to positive reinforcement, this is the same man who, when he was the head coach at Arizona, literally told a player, a college kid, mind you, after a loss against UCLA, that he was a disgrace to his family. The same man who is saying, I want my guys to respond to positive stimuli and encourage them to respond to positive reinforcing behaviors, is quite literally the same man who told a player who was struggling that he is a disgrace to his family name. Positive reinforcement is awesome and makes you better. By the way, you freaking suck and your family's ashamed of you. If you've ever seen the movie Whiplash, imagine a scene where the band director, played by J.K. Simmons, tells his band how important it is to respond to positive stimuli. How out of place that would be in the movie for him and his character. That is John Mackovic. He is the absolute worst messenger for this. And however stupid this idea of giving dog treats was on paper, it looks a million times stupider when it's coming from the man who is allergic to giving praise and positive reinforcement, and the man who literally told a college kid that he is a disgrace to his family. And to the surprise of no one, the players did not respond to this at all. As you can tell from these highlights, the very next game that the Chiefs played against the New York Giants was a game that the Chiefs lost by a final score of 28-27, despite leading 27-14 with 9 minutes left in the contest. The loss assured the fact that the Chiefs could not have a winning season, and the Chiefs ended up missing the playoffs yet again. Maybe this was a bad message. Maybe this was a case of right message, wrong messenger. Either way, Mackovic's plan to take his troops on the road to pull off the upset against a New York team in prime position to make the playoffs did not work whatsoever, as the Chiefs dropped their fourth straight game, with their struggles continuing. One writer summed it up best after the game by saying, all the psychological efforts in Coach John Mackovic's psyche didn't seem to help much, as the Chiefs still found another way to lose. Yep, that just about sums it up. There have been a lot of weird strategies used to try and get a team ready to win a football game and get a team in the right mindset. You name it, it's been done. We've seen everything, from removing the decals off of helmets to make them earn the logo, to putting an axe in the locker room with a tree stump to tell them to keep chopping wood, to bringing in a wheelbarrow of cash to let players visualize how much money they can make with the win, to other rituals like burning stuff, to making up bulletin board material that does not exist and is completely fabricated, to everything else in between. But of all the strategies, this might have to be the weirdest of them all, especially considering who the messenger was. Moral of the story: if you're a head coach looking to motivate a team and looking to get them to respond to positive stimuli, don't berate them constantly and don't give them dog treats. Nothing says I feel inspired to win a football game than entering the locker room, going to your locker, and getting a lecture while seeing a box of dog treats at your spot. Because despite John Mackovic's best efforts, on this day in 1984, he couldn't quite get his team out of the doghouse. Check out our live streaming schedule for the next few days. We're live every single day on this channel, whether we're covering a sporting event or playing GeoGuessr or just taking your requests. So make sure you like and subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss a single time that we go live and so that you can join this community. Also, thanks to all our members and our Patreon supporters who get exclusive perks like their name at the end of each video, members-only Q&A streams, and cool emojis to use on videos and during streams. See how you can join this community and become a member or a Patreon member by clicking the link in the description below.